අද්විතීය 200 Mbps ස්පීඩ් එකකින් ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ වේගවත්ම සහ පුළුල්තම හෝම් බ්‍රෝඩ්බෑන්ඩ් සම්බන්ධතාවය වන SLT මොබිටෙල් දේශීය ෆයිබර් බලවේගය ඔබත් අදම අත්විඳින්න.
හරිම සුදුයි.
Tonight on First at 9, this Saturday, the 27th of May 2023. Friends in need. Japan expresses readiness to support Sri Lanka towards sustainable economic growth.
Japan would like to support Sri Lanka's effort to make its economy more resilient.
Assures commitment to resume suspended projects.
When Japan was in deep trouble after the war, Sri Lanka stood firmly beside us. That is why we are trying to do that now.
Relief. Government proposes to reduce electricity tariffs for domestic consumers by 23%, says the Power and Energy Minister. Hints further reduction from the January tariff revision. Connectivity. More domestic air connectivity between Colombo and the Eastern Province from July.
We want to continue that and ensure that there will be more tourists going from here to especially the place like Pasikuda.
Demise of a veteran. Former UN Under-Secretary General for the Office for Disarmament Affairs, Jayantha Dhanapala, passes away in Kandy.
Alliance Finance මෙතුරු රන්නයි සේවාවෙන් රන් පවුම්කට රුපියල් 1,70,000ක ඉහළ අත්තිකාරමක්.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9 with Ndivari Amuata. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
A very good evening and a warm welcome to this Saturday's edition of First at 9. I'm Ndivari Amuata. We take a look at your top story making headlines tonight. Acting Japanese ambassador to Sri Lanka, Kotaro Katsuki, said Japan is willing to support Sri Lanka's efforts towards a more resilient economy, adding that it is essential to attract foreign investment in order to achieve sustainable and stable growth. Speaking at an event in Colombo yesterday, the Japanese envoy in Colombo went on to say that Japan will continue to be involved in the resumption of all projects, including the Katunayake Airport expansion project, which is currently under suspension.
The ceremonial inauguration of Build Sri Lanka Housing and Construction Expo 2023 exhibition was held at the BMICH yesterday under the patronage of Japanese Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Kotaro Katsuki.
Based on the IMF agreement, we would be delighted to see Sri Lanka assiduously work on a series of reforms such as rooting out corruption and reforming state-owned enterprises. Moreover, in order to make the economy more export-oriented and competitive, as mentioned in the 2023 budget, it should entail further strengthening of the manufacturing industry across the board and promotion of export industry by connecting it to the global supply chain. In considering future assistance to Sri Lanka, Japan would like to support Sri Lanka's effort to make its economy more resilient. In addition, it is essential to attract foreign investment in order to achieve sustainable and stable growth by way of improving the investment environment. We hope that transparency, efficiency, and consistency will be enhanced through the reforms which are taking place as we speak. The first initiative is related to climate change and decarbonization. In October last year, our two countries signed an agreement on a joint credit mechanism. With the collaboration between Japanese and Sri Lankan companies and the support from the Japanese government, this JCM will allow for reducing greenhouse gas emissions by harnessing decarbonization and renewable energy technologies to Sri Lanka. With this program, it is hoped that Japanese companies will find it more attractive to invest in the field of renewable energy projects in Sri Lanka with their innovative technologies and solutions. I hope that these initiatives will bring about new business opportunities for both Sri Lankan and Japanese businesses. President Ranil Wickremesinghe is currently visiting Japan to address the 28th Nikkei Future of Asia conference held in Tokyo. we will follow up on the outcomes of His Excellency's visit to Japan. In the future, the development of the construction industry in Sri Lanka will become increasingly important for the country to overcome the current economic crisis and achieve sustainable development. Japan will continue to be involved in the resumption of ODA projects, including the Bandaranaike International Airport expansion project, which is currently suspended due to the situation in this country. And in order to move forward, it's important for the Sri Lankan government to work on restructuring its debt and to improve the economic and financial situation in a transparent manner, working closely, including foreign entities like IMF or the Paris Club. I'd like to conclude my address by expressing our determination to continue to stand firmly by Sri Lanka as its partner and to support further development of this beautiful island country so that Sri Lanka can unleash its full potential towards building a strong and vibrant economy. When Japan was in deep trouble after the war, Sri Lanka stood firmly beside us. That is why we are trying to do that now.
Well, high-tech scanners are to be installed at the VIP passenger clearance terminal at the Bandaranaike International Airport on the instructions of President Ranil Wickremesinghe. President Secretary Saman Ekanayake has instructed the Director General of Sri Lanka Customs to take all required measures to establish high-tech scanning machines at the VIP passenger terminal of BIA. The relevant directive was given in a bid to prevent illegal goods being smuggled into the country through the VIP terminal. Customs officials stated that although high-tech scanning machines are established at normal terminals of the airport, no such scanners have been set up at the VIP terminal. Accordingly, President Wickremesinghe has called for the scanners to be installed at the VIP terminal as well. Meanwhile, Presidential Secretariat has further instructed the Director General of Sri Lanka Customs to compile a report on the matter. Minister of Power and Energy Kanchana Wijesekara says electricity tariffs of the domestic category will be subjected to a minimum price reduction of 23% after the July price revision. Speaking at a public gathering of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna in Hakmana in the Mathura district, the minister further said that steps will be taken to further reduce electricity tariffs from the next revision in January 2024.
මේ ඉදිරිපත් කළ තියෙන විදුලි ගාස් සංශෝධනය තුළ වැරදි මතයක් හදන්න හදනවා ඉතාමත්ම අඩු ප්‍රමාණයකින් තමයි අඩු කරන්න හදන්නේ කියලා. දැන් අපි අඩු කරන්න යෝජනා කරලා තියෙනවා ජුලි මාසේ 1 වෙනිදා ඉඳලා මොකද වැඩිම පිරිසක් ඉන්නේ අපේ රටේ ගෘහස්ත කාණ්ඩේ. එතකොට අර විපක්ෂ කියන විදියට නෙවෙයි අපි යෝජනා කරලා තියෙන ජුලි මාසේ 1 වෙනිදා ඉඳලා අවමය 123කින් අවමය 123කින් විදුලි ගාස්තුව අඩු කරන්න තමයි ජුලි මාසේ 1 වෙනිදා ඉඳලා ඒ කාණ්ඩේ වෙනින් අපි යෝජනා ඉදිරිපත් කරලා තියෙන්නේ. අපි ස්ථාවර ගාස්තුව 400 ඉඳලා 250ට අඩු කරනවා එකේ. ඒකකයක් සඳහා තියෙන මිල රුපියල් 30 ඉඳලා 25ට අඩු කරනවා. අර ඉහළ තියෙන කට්ටියගේ අපි ලොකු අඩු කිරීමක් කරන්නේ නැහැ. නියත වශයෙන්ම මතක තියාගන්න ඊළඟ සංශෝධනයකට ජනවාරි මාසේ මීටත් වැඩිය මුදලකින් විදුලි බිල අඩු කරලා ඔබ තමුන්නාසලේ සහනය ලබා දෙන්න අපි කටයුතු කරනවා කියන එකත් මේ වෙලාවේ මතක් කරනවා.
Sri Lanka and Saudi Arabia had discussed ways to strengthen bilateral cooperation between the two countries in several key areas at the first session of the Sri Lanka-Dubai Joint Commission in Saudi capital Riyadh. During the session, State Minister of Foreign Affairs Tharaka Balasurya signed a memorandum of understanding on political consultations with the Saudi counterpart.
The first session of the Sri Lanka-Saudi Joint Commission, formed under the framework agreement in which the two countries signed in 2003, was held in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia from the 21st to 23rd of May. The commission, which was co-chaired by Sri Lanka's State Minister of Foreign Affairs Tharaka Balasurya and Saudi Arabian Vice Minister of Human Resources Dr. Abdullah bin Nasser Abutunain, focused on key areas including cooperation, trade, economics, investment, foreign employment, energy and finance. Further, discussions also focused on areas such as transportation, communications, agriculture, education, sports, humanitarian work, culture, judicial matters and security. Addressing the Joint Commission, State Minister of Foreign Affairs Tharaka Balasurya said that bilateral relations will be further strengthened following successful discussions of the Commission. A memorandum of understanding on political consultations was also signed by the State Minister and the Saudi Arabia's Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs. Further, the cooperation between the two countries in the international fora was also appreciated by the two ministers, specifically focusing on the humanitarian assistance provided by Saudi Arabia in the evacuation of Sri Lankans from Sudan. Meanwhile, State Minister Balasuriya also delivered a speech at the business meeting organised by the Sri Lanka Professional Association to explore potential for the Sri Lankan construction sector in Saudi Arabian development projects.
And the 5-member expert committee appointed to probe the cause of death of the late businessman Dinesh Shafter concluded its preliminary phase of the forensic autopsy on Shafter's remains. Meanwhile, the late Shafter's mother provided her blood samples to the Government Analysts Department upon an order of the Colombo Additional Magistrate to confirm DNA samples.
Following an order given by Colombo Additional Magistrate Rajindra Jayasuriya, the remains of Dinesh Shafter were exhumed at the Borella Cemetery on Thursday before a 5-member committee appointed to uncover the cause of his death. Yesterday, the 5-member expert committee headed by Senior Lecturer of the Department of Forensic Medicine and Toxicology at the University of Colombo, Dr. Asela Mendes, completed the preliminary phase of the forensic autopsy on Shafter's remains at the teaching hospital in Karapitiya. Further, the investigations into Shafter's death is conducted with the support from the Criminal Investigation Department. In order to confirm the late businessman's DNA samples, the Colombo Additional Magistrate has ordered the CID to obtain blood samples from his mother, and it is reported that the Government Analysts Department has obtained the DNA samples.
Well, private aviation companies say they are ready to expand flight operations connecting main airports domestically. We'll bring you details when we return after this short break. To stay with us.
ගොඩමඩ පෙරලි කරන බලපුළුවන් කාරයා මහින්ද්‍රා යුවෝ ඩීමෝ වෙතින් වැඩම ගොඩයි ගොඩම තමයි ස්වරාජ් ට්‍රැක්ටර් ඩීමෝ වෙතින්.
Welcome back to the news. Veteran Sri Lankan diplomat Jayantha Dhanapala has passed away aged 84 while receiving treatment at the National Hospital in Kandy. Jayantha Dhanapala was a former UN Under-Secretary General for the Office for Disarmament Affairs and a veteran diplomat for Sri Lanka.
Born on the 1938, Jayantha Dhanapala joined the Sri Lankan Foreign Service in 1965 and served in London, Beijing, Washington DC, New Delhi and Geneva as a diplomat and represented Sri Lanka at several international conferences, chairing many of them, including the historic 1995 Review and Extension Conference of the Parties to the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation on Nuclear Weapons. In 1998, Dhanapala was appointed by the UN Secretary-General Kofi Annan to take on the challenging job of Under-Secretary-General to re-establish the Department of Disarmament after the UN reforms of 1997. During his tenure that concluded in 2003, he piloted the UN role in arresting the proliferation of small arms and light weapons, anti-personnel landmines, conventional weapons, and weapons of mass destruction while reinforcing existing norms and norm building in other areas such as missiles. He served as the 11th president of Nobel Peace Prize-winning Pugwash conferences on science and world affairs and served as a member of several other advisory boards of international bodies. In recent years, Dhanapala served as a member of the Constitutional Council of Sri Lanka from 2018 to 2020. A recipient of a number of international awards and honorary doctorates, Dhanapala has published 5 books and several articles in international journals. He has also engaged in political, disarmament, economic, trade, human rights and cultural matters in both bilateral and multilateral contexts. The veteran diplomat passed away today while receiving treatment at the National Hospital in Kandy.
And news in politics, leader of the Sri Lanka Muslim Congress, Rauf Hakim, parliamentarian Rauf Hakim, says there are members in the SJB who are willing to move forward in politics together with the United National Party. In the meantime, SJB parliamentarian Thissa Attanayaka urged the government to hold local government elections as soon as possible.
රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ ජනාධිපතිතුමාට හැකියාව ලැබුණා ආණ්ඩුවක් පිහිටවලා ඉතාමත් කෙටි කාලයක් ඇතුළත මිරටේ දේශපාලනික ස්ථාවරත්වය ඇති කරගන්න. ඒ වගේම අද ආර්ථිකය ස්ථාවර වෙලා තියෙනවා යම් තාක් දුරකට. ආණ්ඩුවේ සමහර ප්‍රතිපත්ති පිළිබඳව අපට විවේචනයක් තියෙනවා. සමහර යෝජනා පිළිබඳව අපි සෑහීමකටපත් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. හැබැයි ඒවා පිළිබඳව අපි විශ්වාස කරනවා. අපිට අධිකව ජනාධිපතිතුමා එක්ක සාකච්ඡා කරලා රටට හානියක් නොවන ආකාරයට ඒ තීන්දුව තීරණ ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්න අපට හැකියාව තියෙනවා. අපි ඒ විශ්වාස කරනවා. සමහර තීන්දුව අපි ගත යුතුයි. අපි අපේ රටේ මහ ජනතාවට ගැළපෙන මොඩලයක් අනුගමනය කළ යුතුයි කියලා අපි විශ්වාස කරනවා. යම් කිසියකින් ආණ්ඩුවේ ක්‍රියාකාරාපය තුල එවැනි මොඩලයක් ක්‍රියාත්මක නොවෙනවා නම් ජනතාවාදී මොඩලයක් බවට පරිවර්තනය කරන්න අපි පක්ෂයක් විදිහට මැදිහත් වෙනවා කියන එකත් මතක් කරන්න ඕනේ.
පක්ෂයක් වුණත් ඕනම සංවිධානයක් වැරදිච්ච තැන අපි ස්වයං විවේචනයක් කරගන්න ඕනේ. ඒ ස්වයං විවේචනයෙන් තමයි නැවත අපිට හරි ගස්සන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්නේ. අපි වරද්දගත්තේ මෙන්න මේ කාබනික පෝර වැඩි. එතනින් තමයි අපි වරද්දගත්තේ. හොඳ වැඩක් මේක. මිනිස්සුන්ගේ බඩට වැදුනා.
ජනාධිපතිතුමන් මේ රටේ ප්‍රධානියා හැටියට කටයුතු කළාට එතුමා පොහොට්ටුවේ ප්‍රාණ අපකරුවක් හැටියටයි අපිට දකින්න තියෙන්නේ. ඉතින් ඒකෙන් ගැලවී එතුමාට අපේ ප්‍රතිපත්ති එක්ක ඉදිරියට යන්න පුළුවන් වකවානුවක් උදා වුණා නම් අපි ඒ ගැන කල්පනා කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඇත්ත වශයෙන්ම සමගි ජන බලවේගය තුල එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂයත් එකතු කරගෙන ගමනක් යෑමට බලාපොරොත්තුෙන් ඉන්න කීප දෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා. නමුත් ඒක മന്ത്രിවරු බිලිබාගෙන කරන්නට උත්සාහ කරනවා නම් ඒක අසාර්ථක වෙනවා.
අපි 2020 අපි ආරම්භ කරලා මාස දෙකක් ගිහිල්ලා ලංකාවේ ප්‍රධාන විපක්ෂය බවට පරිවර්තනය වෙන්න අපිට පුළුවන්කම ලැබුණා. ඉතින් අපිට ඡන්ද තියනවද නැද්ද කියලා බලන්න ඡන්දයක් තියෙන්න එපා. කවුරු හරි අපිට අභියෝග කරනවා නම් සමග ජන බලවේගයකට ඡන්ද නැහැ කියලා ආණ්ඩුවේ අය අපි ආණ්ඩුවේ අයට අභියෝග කරන්න පුළුවන් නම් ජනාධිපතිවරණයකට යන්න ඕන නැහැ. පළාත් පාලන මැතිවරණේ වහා තියලා අපිට පෙන්වන්න.
සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාස මහතා තමයි වැඩිම බලය තියෙන විපක්ෂය. ඊළඟට සමාජයේ අද වැඩිම ආකර්ෂණයක් ලබමින් වැඩිම ජනපිරිස් එකතු කරන්න පුළුවන් ජනතා විමුක්ති පෙරමුණ. මේ පක්ෂ දෙක තීන්දුවක් ගන්නට ඕන මේ රටේ ඡන්දයක් ලබා ගැනීම සඳහා කුමන ක්‍රියාමාර්ගයක් ගන්නවද කියලා. ඒකට අපටත් එකතු වෙන්න පුළුවන්. නමුත් ඒ දෙගොල්ලන් ඒ සඳහා ඉදිරිපත් නොවි ඊට වඩා අඩු ශක්තියක් ඇති පක්ෂ ඒ පිළිබඳව මැදිහත් වීමෙන් ප්‍රයෝජනයක් වෙන්නේ නැහැ.
And we take you to business news. The Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Aviation announced that private airline operators have expressed their readiness to increase flight operations from Ratmalana to Katunayaka to Batiklo from July onwards in a bid to boost tourism in the eastern province. This was revealed following a meeting with the relevant stakeholders to discuss how connectivity can help develop the eastern province of Sri Lanka. During the meeting, a consensus was also reached to initiate domestic flights connecting the areas with airports located in Katunayaka, Mattala, Ratmalana and Palale.
A meeting between Minister of Ports, Shipping and Aviation Nimal Siripala De Silva and Governor of the Eastern Province Sendil Thondaman was held recently to discuss strategies and initiatives for the development of the Eastern Province with a particular focus on enhancing air and sea travel infrastructure to support the tourism industry in the region. The meeting was also attended by representatives of Airport and Aviation Services Private Limited, Sri Lanka Air Force and officials of private airline services. During the meeting, challenges related to air travel accessibility for tourists visiting the Eastern Province were discussed with a particular focus on issue of expensive airfares. As a result, a consensus was reached to initiate domestic flights connecting the area with airports located in Katunayaka, Mattala, Ratmalana and Palale. Issuing a statement, the Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Aviation said the decision aims to address difficulties faced by tourists and improve overall facilitation of air travel within the region. Discussions revealed that private airlines operating internally have not taken sufficient steps to maximize benefits of the Batiklo airport, which is capable of facilitating flights carrying approximately 75 passengers. It was also noted that enhancing airport productivity can be achieved by extending flights from Chennai in India to Ratmalana and further to Batiklo. The Eastern Province Governor emphasized his intention to discuss the matter with Alliance Airline, which currently operates flights from Chennai to Ratmalana, and take necessary steps to extend flights up to Batiklo. The airline representatives meanwhile also announced plans to increase flight operations from Ratmalana and Katunayaka to Batiklo starting from July. It was also decided that discussions would be initiated with relevant representatives of shipping lines to explore the possibility of extending passenger lines that connect Colombo and Hambantota up to Trincomalee.
We had a elaborate discussion about the air connectivity between Colombo, the main cities, and Batiklo, and especially with the Eastern Province. It is of paramount importance to develop the tourist sector in that area. There must be proper connectivity between Katunayaka Airport, Mattala Airport and Ratmalana Airport and the Batiklo Airport. So we have invited the private sector, airline operators, helicopter and other operators to assist us and we encourage them to have more connected flights between the city of Colombo to Batiklo in order to take tourists there. So they have promised that some of the private airlines that they will start operations in mid-July, but we want to continue that and ensure that there will be more tourists going from here to especially the place like Pasikuda, Eastern Province beaches, the most attractive and most beautiful beach there. So I hope with that program there will be more and more tourist attraction to the Eastern Province.
And the Director General of the Board of Investment, Renuka Veerakon, says they're optimistic of attracting more investments to the island within the year. She made these comments while addressing a media briefing organised by the Board of Investment yesterday.
We see the trend continuing. We see a lot of new groups coming in, meeting the minister to discuss new projects, and I think that going forward the BOI is also mandated to do new zones. So going forward the policymakers have, I think, taken the decision that we will offer lands to investors where they can come and set up PPP projects for zonal development, where the government or the BOI will not have to spend on capital infrastructure. This has been a good model which we want to replicate now in the north and in the east, in the south, in all the new areas that we are taking over lands. So we see that there is a growing interest. As I said, there are Korean investors, there are Japanese investors, US, German, so many that our delegations have now started to come in because they feel that, I think with the new policy changes that have happened, that there's going to be stability which they were not very certain about earlier. So we are very optimistic. Our targets for this year, we at BOI with our strategy plan, we had expected to reach 1.3 billion, but we have been given a new directive by the government to reach 2 billion, which we are quite optimistic that we can achieve.
Right now, we are seeing a decline in our markets of around 20%. This is because of a global reduction. So this is affecting not only Sri Lanka, but every other manufacturing country as well. So for about the last 7 months, we have seen a decline on exports. Right now, we think that that decline will carry on for another 5 to 6 months. Today, Germany has gone into recession. Germany food inflation is 17%. So customers are spending less on apparel. In the US, for January to March 2023, their global apparel imports are down 20%. China's exports to US is down, Vietnam is down, Bangladesh is down. So this is a global problem. Drop in demand is also because after COVID, there was a lot of buying of products, so there is excess inventory in stores, so therefore they are not placing new orders at the moment. But we believe this will turn around. It may take another 4 to 5 months, but we believe this will turn around. We are not seeing right now, obviously, when companies have a decline of sales of 20% for 7-8 months, there has to be some readjustment, as the Honourable Minister said. That is, they're working less hours, they may be working less, one shift less, they may be cutting some overheads. But we are not seeing factories getting up and closing and going or taking business out of Sri Lanka. That is not happening. But factories are making adjustments, and there will be some adjustments in labor. In fact, the industry probably stopped recruiting about 5-6 months ago. So there will be some adjustments in the headcount, and there may be 1 or 2 factories that will struggle, but industry will carry on. Secondly, the main point was that in terms of Minister's questions, what can we do? We believe that pushing for the FTAs, so India and China are really key. We're very happy that our President has spoken about Sri Lanka joining RCEP. That will open up new markets in the East. So there is a lot that can be done to help the industry to recover.
And that wraps up tonight's edition of First at 9, your English news service on AdaDerana 24. We'll see you again tomorrow at the same time. Until then, take care. I'm Indivara Yamuatta. Good night.
For news and information you can trust 24 hours a day, visit AdaDerana.lk.